Hello, friends, fellow gamers. It is our patron chat for the US time zone, and we're just getting started here. And so we'll see some patrons trickle in. Most people who watch this channel are those patron supporters or people who like this kind of thing. So we know how this starts. There is our hangout, and we'll see people joining in as just a few minutes pass here. We're also, well, a couple of very exciting things that you'll see on the channel tomorrow are not this channel, but the DFC channel is the session 0 for a new campaign that I get to be a player in. Very excited for that. And then the character that I'm playing in there, we're going to have a special feature video on him. And I love being able to be a player. It's not often enough. So I'm really making a push to become and to focus on playing much more often. Just to take a break this year and those kind of things. Very, very essential. So you avoid the burnouts. And I do have some obligations, right? Some of the patrons have pledged, and they pledge for my time, and my time is granted and allows them to join in, and we play games together. But beyond that, not really essential that I run games all the time. Joshua, good evening. We'll have people trickle in here as we go along. No rush to conversation is fine. Posting that. Of course, some people's first time coming in here. Let's see. And if people don't show up, then I just go on and keep working on other stuff. So not a problem. We're checking a few background things here. Dung, 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 dung. Do 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 do. It's been a weird phenomenon to have my stuck in my head children's tunes, which my baby has been. She had this little player, and so I've been humming peanut butter sandwich made with jam like over and over again. I'm sure it's going to get worse than this with like when she gets old enough to start watching movies or listening to Disney whatnots, and I hear Frozen over and over and over and over and over again. We'll see about that. Jack, good evening.
Howdy.
How you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Doing well. Eager to chat with some people and then continue some work on the homebrew is my plan after this.
Awesome. Living the dream.
Truly, yes. I'm excited for that. What are you excited for in your gaming life?
Let's see. My friend has actually sort of come up with his own system or a mix on that of the Savage World that's sort of based off of the idea of like Japanese teams of like Power Rangers and Sailor Moon. So the team itself gets a certain amount of points to choose from, like the group's set of superpowers. So like we all get motorcycles that we can ride, and then each individual ranger gets their own little sets of powers to separate them. So the yellow ranger gets super speed and the black ranger gets invisibility, and they sort of work together in that team aspect, which I found really interesting. And then in order to level up, you only level up or get more power after you are defeated. So winning is just what you do to keep your city happy. So the prosperity of your city is what the whole goal is, and you try not to escalate the battles more than you have to. So if you can defeat this enemy in your regular form with karate, that's fine. You get less points if you have to morph and use your super suits. If you bring out, the giant 50-foot tall Zords and you wind up knocking over buildings, the city's prosperity is going to go down. So trying to win with as least show of force as possible.
What if that might run into like intentional losing?
If you go into intentional losing, every time you lose, your city's prosperity drops a bunch. So the point of the game is to keep your city as happy as possible.
That's what you've been working on?
Yep.
Sounds fun.
That's sort of once we figured out, because that's just something that he has been throwing around. Once I figure out how to do it, I figured I would introduce it to everyone here, and then throw that around and maybe throw some one-shots or something completely new. But that's a bit far away.
Well, that's neat. I like it. That's kind of the mentality I try and go for. At least we're a group. We fight together.
Yeah,
kind of.
It is the subject of a group game. Like you already have you have to work together, and it also gives it that, which sometimes is hard when you're getting a new team of like, how do we all know each other? You don't have to, because you summoned 5 teenagers with attitude that have nothing to do with each other, but you have this common goal of we need to save the city.
Mm-hmm. I remember that teenagers with attitude login theme. That was always enjoyable. Greetings, Donald, joining us, and Nick.
Hello.
Hey.
Nick was on our last chat. Nick, you stay up late, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we were planning to do session 0 with a few guys at a Facebook group. So I was waiting for them, so I thought I'd join in for a little bit.
Well, you're welcome. Donald, what are you excited about with your gaming life right now?
Oh, I am quite glad Resident Evil 0 came out. I finally started the series for it on my channel today.
Doing a Let's Play for it?
Yes, I just have to put up the video sometime later today, and I'm quite glad I pre-ordered Pillar of Eternity.
Mm-hmm.
It won the DLC's Part 2. I think you are talking about it in one of the videos.
Yeah, I have actually played that game. I stopped playing it, in fact. Not that it's a bad game or anything like that, but just kind of ran out of steam, I guess.
Well, whenever it does come out, the second part for the DLC, I would just add the more content to my channel.
Good times, good Let's Plays, I enjoy them. Well, I enjoy doing them. I don't know that I'd enjoy watching other people play quite so much, but there are definitely some people who do.
I will only watch Let's Plays for a game if I know I'm not going to be playing it.
That's about where I'm at, too. There's too many games that I say I want to play or think about playing that we just don't end up doing, but more of the older games. I think one of the Let's Plays I watched pretty consistently was, I think it's called Shining Force or something like that, like a Sega Genesis game that only came out in Japan or something, and I knew that I would never play it ever, and so it was really interesting to watch that. Devin, good evening.
Hey, man. Some of us don't have any choice but to watch other people play video games, you know.
Oh, that's true.
Let's Plays are certainly a way for me to enjoy things that might interest me. I haven't played a video game since like Shadow of the Colossus.
Ooh.
Way back in the day.
That's a good one.
I've really enjoyed it. Yeah, that's back when I could actually still play video games.
Mm-hmm. And we got to see. All right, well, Devin and I talked last night, so I know what's up with him. But just if you guys have a general theme or topic that you'd like to chat about, feel free to start it up. Happy to do so. Anything that's on your minds.
Relatively odd question, but what have been your most oddest tabletop moment, especially playing D&D?
In game?
Yes, let's say I will begin off. Last Friday, I was playing with my usual group, and at the end of the session, three of the other people chose to have a very odd male hero moment, just for a joke. It was
Male
quite.
harem?
Think of a terrible romance between males.
Okay.
It's a very niche thing.
And that came up in
Anyway,
the
these
game?
three were joking around for a minute until the GM said, "Stop it! Get back onto track." It was more of a party joke.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah, it's
if
all fun and games until Wiener pops out.
yes. All of us are. We know that, but we just do it for lols. A harem is just pretty much meaning everyone in the series want to be with the VIP or main person in the in the anime. So you generally they're the male or female harem. It's more of a cliche thing.
Hmm. Don't think I've had a male harem thing happen in any of my games.
I definitely will remember it as a very uncomfortable moment for a completely male party.
I haven't had a lot of really awkward IC moments myself. The most awkward moment I've ever had was an out of character thing, and we had just brought a new player into the game, and he played with us for maybe 45 minutes before he got kicked out. And it was just a time and time again, just awkward silences after this person would just say something completely off the wall and offensive. And the GM eventually just kicked him out and was like, "No, that didn't work. I think we're just going to stick with the group that we have."
Can we get an example of some of the wildness that he would say?
I want to say that he called one of the other players a dumbass to his face for saying something wrong. And
That's
everybody in
rude.
the group, I know everybody in the group
That's
just
just
went
mean.
silent. Exactly. There are just certain things you don't say to somebody when you first meet them, and it was just stuff like that, just off the wall, mean things that you don't say to people. And yeah, it was not very cool.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
There's a time and a place to be blunt like that, but especially among strangers, you don't do that.
I've had something kind of similar, though. The group didn't. I wasn't the DM, I was just a player, and the group didn't have the confidence to say something immediately, whereas I've learned to say that pretty much right away. But there were 5 of us, I think, and I've shared this story before. This guy was playing a catfolk ranger kind of thing, and was from the very beginning antagonistic to everyone, not wanting to go along with the group. And then he openly said, I attacked the party after doing really awkward flirting with some of the other people. He's like, my cat lady, like he'd like start purring next to someone and say things like, I rub my tail around his neck. And then everyone was just staring at him. Why would you? We just met. We were just playing here together. And then he got annoyed that no one was reciprocating, and he kept pointing out, I have 17 charisma. You have to like my character. And we just gave him this dumbfounded look. And eventually he got annoyed and then started attacking. Like, I'm going to shoot you in the back. And we said, okay. And once he tried that, we turned on him, killed his character, and he stormed off.
That is
That bounced from group to group. Never got it.
that catfolk sound like the player had a very bad furry moment.
Oh, I don't know of any good furry moments so far.
When you were just saying that, I was just thinking of actual furries, how they interact with people at times.
You do you in private. That's kind of my philosophy. I don't care what you do in private. It's none of my business.
It's really just unusual to me. I get that there's certain ways of living and acting, but when you get to a group of people who do not also think and act that way, to try and expect them to do so is a bit off. Jeff, you want to share any awkward stories?
Give me a second. Sorry about that. I'm making dinner. Let's see. Nothing too awkward as being molested by catfolk. I had an air ganassi, and we were doing sort of a chaotic, neutral, not the nicest people in the world, and he died, but I didn't want to die, so we wound up doing a possession sort of ritual, and I had to take over the body, so I went from being a male air ganassi, to a female dwarf. It was that or death. So I continued my life in the body of a female dwarf, which didn't change that much because the campaign didn't go that much further. So, but that was the weirdest thing that ever happened to me in character.
The sex change stuff can definitely lead to some exciting interactions. Which I had one horrific message that came up on Ask a DM a little while ago.
The pregnant one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know who the dad is. I don't know what the race of the dad. It was a pretty bad one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely remember that. It's quite hilarious if those things come up.
Mind-boggling to me. How about a happier topic? I put this to, maybe you're in it right now, but I put this to a group that we're forming a new campaign. I thought, if you could have complete control, absolute control over the next campaign that you were in, you could decide all the details, you didn't have to compromise with anybody else, what would that be? What would that campaign look like?
As the DM?
As a DM or as a player, you get to decide.
I'm pretty much doing it as a DM right now. You guys didn't object to any of the things that I gave you so far. As a player, though, I think my old school idea for the paladin that has the sword that talks to him, the evil sword, and he kind of goes around, that would still be my pick. I really want to do that arc at some point.
They smell weird. It's like potatoes.
They're purple. What are they made out of? Oh, sorry.
One campaign idea, if I could be a GM or a player, I would like to play as a rebel, or even a I think the term is anarchist. That would definitely be an interesting role to play as.
A rebel or like an actual anarchist, or do you want to be like a revolutionary?
I would actually want to play as the actual anarchist. Playing as a revolutionist would sound interesting, but anarchist sounds more interesting.
I can see that. I sort of had those same ideas of toppling the government, but as much fun as it always is to topple governments, you have to deal with those after you topple them. So I think it would be fun until after you brought down the king or monarch or Congress or whatever you have controlling that land. So that'd be fun, but what comes in its place is usually just going to be some random warlord.
If I remember playing Fallout 3, one of the DLCs, you can actually do that, topple a government in one of the areas, but everything's turned out for the worse. one of the options is you could side with the tyrant in the area, and and actually restore order, which is quite interesting at the twist at the end.
Yeah. What I would like is more something like not that grand scheme kind of thing. I'm more the player who wants to play the little rogue that just goes around town, maybe sometimes stealing some stuff from people, from the rich, and keeping it for himself, not giving it to the poor. And yeah, just a simple story like that, not big changes or whatever. And then it fell quiet.
It's very challenging to get, as I'm discovering, or have known for a while, but to get 5 people to have the same, to come up and like adhere to the same thing. Everyone kind of wants something different, and it's that not resolving that creates so many problems in campaigns, because everyone wants something different out of it, and how to end up. And a lot of what you guys were describing, well, some of them, like the thief anyway, is kind of a solo experiment, like a solo player activity, to sneak around by myself and rob people. You know, the Thieves Guild mentality thing is very kind of, to me, done best when you're just playing one character. And to have like a group of people doing that creates the challenge much more. That's just something I've had trouble juggling completely to get everyone on board. Sometimes the differences are even so drastic as, I want to play an evil steampunk and we're all high level, and then the other person says, I want to play good low level, low fantasy, and like this complete clash in the discussion. It's not ideal.
One of the things that I came up with, and I think this might have been something that I had submitted for the Writing November challenge, was playing as a group of elite town guardsmen as like the SWAT team. So instead of having like, you know, our village is under attack, trying to find random adventures to help you out, to have a squad that's already there and ready to protect it. So you start off low level, going through the academy, and each person has their own speciality. You've got your rock, papers, and your scissors that you train on, so that you can come together and have that really awesome group ready to defend your city instead of counting on outsiders.
It's very Shadowrun-esque. Just in Shadowrun, you're on the opposite side.
Gotcha.
I think Pazzo actually made a venture pass that you do that in a way. I think it plays in Chiliax, and you actually have to protect the city from what would actually be a lot of good foreigners trying to change the city for the worse, I think.
Well, I guess worse is a matter of perspective. When you're in a devil worshipping evil nation.
I guess worse would be changing the status quo to be what is not.
To me, that mentality is so important, and that we are a group, we are together, we need to work together. I mean, it may not be your most favorite exciting story. Some people may like, oh, I find it much more interesting if there's morally ambiguous or if there's conflict. But the reality that you are sitting around a table with these people, you're in the same room or in the same hangout and chats for who knows how many hours, that is the reality of your experience, has to be taken into consideration. Like, I just don't get anymore how people could expect a good time to come of complete conflict, complete lack of unity, an unwillingness to work together, bad party dynamic, all those things, and expect it to be enjoyable or fun.
I think that that's getting a little bit worse these days with the transition from flesh to net tabletop. I don't know if there's actually a term for that coined yet. You should coin that. Something for going from digital.
Digitalization, yeah.
Well, there's the virtual tabletop that's often used.
That's what it is, virtual tabletop. But what's it called when it's not virtual tabletop? Just tabletop? Or do we need to coin a word for not virtual tabletop now?
In person?
Fair enough.
Local?
In-person tabletop? Local tabletop?
Fleshling.
No.
Sweat.
Real space tabletop.
Real space. Take that. Well, I agree, and I'll be quiet for you to elaborate. But I've found that there's at least some players are getting into the mentality of they've got their portfolio of like 3 or 10 or whatever characters they want to play, and they're just kind of roaming around looking for a group in which to play that character, regardless of what other people are interested in, regardless of the group dynamic, regardless of the theme of the campaign. And they just go in, and the game lasts one session, and it doesn't happen again because it's just such a negative experience, and so many people just try and get their own thing out of it. I want this, I want this, I want this, I'm going to play this way, and no willing to compromise. And it's a little less of a commitment to kind of stick with. Whereas you have to drive over to someone's house, you guys see them in person. That's a bigger commitment than click a button and sit here. If it doesn't work out, then I just don't click the button again. Yeah,
that's basically right.
Extrapolate out.
Yeah. Also. Sorry. Go ahead.
All right. When you're going onto the internet, does anybody here know about the idea of the magic circle? We basically work under an assumption of social rules all the time. Like, everybody here knows that you don't walk up to somebody on the street and punch them in the face. But there are certain situations where everybody agrees to change the rules of social conduct. Like if two men step into a boxing ring, they have temporarily suspended the don't punch each other in the face rule. It's expected that they're going to punch each other in the face. That can kind of be applied to the internet. When you go onto the internet, a lot of the rules that normally apply in social situations seem to have been suspended for a lot of people. That's why we have so many trolls. And to a lesser extent, that carries over into chats like these, when things are just a little more anonymous than maybe they should be. And I think that's also a problem why our commitments to things are so lax, because nobody knows it's you who did it, and nobody's going to care that's you who did it, so there's no negative repercussions to doing something stupid.
So wait, does that mean I can't share my neo-Nazi propaganda? That's not allowed here?
I guess you could if you wanted to.
Not allowed.
Okay.
Well, as long as you're not in Germany, I guess.
It might be considered harassment on the internet.
No, don't delve in that.
No, please, no.
I won't
Hold on, my food is here. I'm going to be right back.
I won't touch it.
You have to save Hitler for later on in the conversation. Let's start off with that.
Well, you can always save the last argument. If you do not like me, I can always call you a neo-Nazi, just for all at the end.
That's okay.
Let me welcome Wes and.
Okay, it was a joke in poor taste, perhaps.
No.
But with strangers, I always try to get the Hitler out there first, so that way it doesn't show up later.
Yeah, I got Wislaw right.
So yeah, I'd like to, we can respond about that. That it's definitely a different atmosphere, and this is partly why why I like to have, if possible, people to be on camera. It raises the level of, not only is it facial expressions and gesturing and those kind of things, but it raises the level of personal involvement and accountability in the sense of togetherness in the game that can be really circumvented if you don't have that, if it's just kind of behind an anonymous picture or wall or those kind of things. I like that. I like that challenge. Step up. This it's a way to recreate just a little bit the in-person interactions. Yeah, I like this the magic circle idea. It makes sense. And there should be internet etiquette, but I guess there's not.
Not usually, no.
Is this
I've seen that argument applied in a couple different ways too. I might send you.
Well, I think you've done a pretty good job, Andrew, of establishing your own magic circle and internet etiquette. That this is a Dawnforge production, and these are the rules of said production. So you establish it, and I guess that goes back to your whole entire community of a session 0. That this is the group we have created, and these are the social contracts that we're going to go by.
It's so important. I mean, I want to have fun, and to me, fun doesn't happen when everyone is trying to get their own out of it. It only happens in this hobby when we cooperate, when we focus on group game and togetherness. I just don't see it viable any other way. And in my experience, the games have always been more enjoyable when there's a sense of we're working together. We're in this cooperatively. We're not in it for our own take what I can and screw the rest of you approach. So yeah, hopefully the more I can preach it, the more it gets picked up on. Something that I'm finding that would take the load off me is more DMs of this mindset to step forward to run games, to organize them. It doesn't have to necessarily be through the channel, but I still get asked every day, every single day, multiple times a day, can I join a game of yours? Can I run a game like yours? I can't find a DM who plays good. I wish I had a game group like yours. And so many of my videos are about how you can do that, how you can make that for yourselves. But I'm only one person. Got to be other people advocating this, and we got to get the message out and people willing to take a stand and say, you know what, I want good, happy gaming in my group. I want cooperation. I want to leave the table high-fiving each other and not just, I hate those people. I get messages also every day, I hate the people I play with, is kind of, you can summarize it. That should never be the case. You should never hate the people that you're playing with. It happens so often.
I think we just need to reshuffle people a little bit. We need to take all the hardcore RPers out of the groups with the power gamers, put the power gamers together, and put the RPers together.
Well, see, the problem with that is that they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Not at all. But there are some people... I'm using Power Gamer as somebody who wants to focus on the mechanics more than RP in this particular sense. So for the sake of argument, I'm saying we should take the two people and, split the tables and rearrange them so that everybody's playing with the people they want to be playing with.
I would like to...
I also wouldn't lay all the blame on the power gamers, because I don't know if you've ever been to a vampire LARP or anything like that. But role players can easily be as antagonistic to one another.
I'm not laying all the blame on the power gamers at all.
And I'm serious.
Yeah. No, it's not
I would almost
in the fault
have
of
a
one
power
of the...
gamer at the table than somebody who's antagonistic. Sorry for talking over you.
It's not that I think that power gamers are at fault. It's that I think that a lot of the times the two things don't mix very well. So you just need to separate them out.
Power gamers and role playing, or
people who focus purely on mechanics and people who focus purely on story, and there are a lot of people that fall in between.
Yeah,
but they're not always compatible.
We could say it a little more easily with instead of those specific titles which have a lot of baggage to them, just play with like-minded people who want to get similar experience out of the game. And I definitely absolutely agree. With online, that's not too impossible to facilitate. I think people who play locally feel like they're trapped and have to play with whoever they can possibly get. Or in the case of things like Society or Adventure League are stuck with whatever people show up. But to really achieve that optimal gaming, which can look very, very different for a lot of different people, that common focus has to be there. If it's not there, it's just going to, someone's not going to be enjoying themselves. Someone is going to be resenting the mission, resenting the other players. It's just not worth it. Just got to say, I need to play this way, and then just go do it.
And then we reiterate the importance of a session 0.
I would like to add session 0 is quite important. My Friday group I play with, it took like 2 months to get a actual session. The GM actually did a interview, sort of like a job interview, to ask question A to Z. How are you going to interact with the group to find a good group dynamic? And so far, for playing about 4 months now, everything is going quite well.
And we've discovered, some of us here in this chat, that while session 0 is super duper important, you gotta invest in the session 0, and if you're not, then that's gonna just end up in trouble later on the line. It's not worth it to. And this applies broadly to, and I got a couple comments here today. I wish my wife would play. I wish my wife didn't hate gaming. Like, why is she your wife then if she loathes the thing that you're super passionate about? That should have been brought up on the third date or something. Right, very quickly. Be honest about it, and that's the same thing with gaming. You gotta be honest and forthright. You're gonna get what you're after, and you're just gonna run into conflict with everybody.
Well, I mean, marriage is sort of a dance of contrasts, and contrast isn't the word I'm looking for. Compromises. Marriage is sort of a interplay of compromises, but some things maybe you shouldn't have to compromise on.
Or you shouldn't end up married to someone who you have
exactly.
so little in common with.
Well, actually, they don't have to enjoy it, but they'll have. It should be something where they allow you. They know it's your thing. Well, you know what I'm trying to say.
Be accepting of your hobby.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. We got to be forthright. We got to say what we want. That's part of what I'm doing for just wanting to be a player more often. Is to have to say it. I want to do this. I don't want to play this kind of thing. I do want to play this kind of thing. You come out and it's not. You got a bunch of dislikes and those kind of things, and it's compromised a campaign and that kind of stuff. But I'm really not enjoying Pathfinder. So instead of just suffering and denying it and continue to say, you know what, I'll just pretend. Just say it. Maybe somebody can help you out with that kind of thing. With the style, with maybe this will help, this mentality or these tools or whatever to make it easier. If you don't say something, you're always going to be stuck with those unspoken expectations. It's going to be negative. It's going to be bad. Ooh, are we full? Almost full. Let me welcome Thomas and James and Gavin and anybody else who's joined us here. You guys, feel free to jump in. I'm just waxing on. But if you have a question or a topic or something gaming related that you're excited about, please feel free to jump in and offer that to us.
Hey, Gavin.
Hey, how's it going?
One thing that I kind of want to get your guys' opinions on is, what do you think about the open gaming license now for 5th edition?
I'm
think
wondering
you'll bring
if
in
that's
a lot of good stuff, or you'll think you just be overwatered with too much content now?
I haven't actually gone into the opening. Oh, sorry.
Do you guys know how that applies to certain aspects of like the PHB being posted online? Is that going to have any bearing on that at all?
Well, what I understand about it, the open gaming license gives everyone allows everyone to officially publish 5e content as long as it does not include
Certain
like
names.
certain names like the Beholder, like that's a Wizards thing. You can't use the Beholder in your games or stuff like that. So you're not going to be able to like republish the PHB or anything like that. If that's your question.
No, I was more curious about if they would ever be able to put like the class information and stuff up on the wiki that they had going there for a while.
Oh,
That I'm not sure actually.
Yeah,
I
'cause
actually
liked-
found a website with that all in there.
Yeah, there was one a while ago, and it all got taken down. I think it would be cool if they made a little bit more of that stuff accessible online, kind of like take a Paizo route.
Mm-hmm.
Are you
Yeah,
talking about like
it-
the SRD for
Yeah.
exactly.
3.5 or Pathfinder?
Yeah,
the Pathfinder SRD actually released a D&D 5e version.
Did it?
Yeah, I just
Oh,
saw
okay.
it today. Yeah.
That might be because of the open gaming license. All right.
Mhm.
Cool. If that's the case, then that's going to be very helpful. I like how they organize that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on it. If they start putting stuff like that up, yeah, sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little suspicious of it, to be honest, because back in 3rd edition, the open gaming license, with the exception of Paizo, really wasn't kind to a lot of third-party publishers. So I'm wondering if it's more a business tactic than a legitimate attempt to get more publishers into the game.
I think it's definitely a business tactic. You know, anything that they do is going to be, supposed to be profitable for them, no doubt about it. But, I think at least with the OGL, we might actually see some new stuff coming to 5th edition instead of just stuff from Wizards, which I'm kind of excited about. Stuff that's actually official.
I guess I'm also a little concerned about bloat. 3.5 had such a problem with bloat, and Pathfinder even has some balance issues with stuff from later books being much too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So I am worried how that's going to affect the overall perceptions of 5e balance and mechanics and stuff. But other than that, yeah.
One thing that I'm actually kind of interested to see happens, Paizo and Pathfinder, they came to being because of the open gaming license in 3rd edition. I'm wondering if another thing will kind of happen with 5th edition, if like another Paizo or another Pathfinder comes along because of it. Creates more competition for Wizards, for something that they implemented.
One good thing about competition is that it's the Darwin law. You either adapt or you die. So in a way,
Or he died, where Pathfinder.
yeah, 5th edition, if it want to stay up to date, it have to change and try to beat its business enemies off. If you get what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's true, but the thing is that I'd much rather it be with other publishers having their own systems, because what you lose in the homogeny of the systems, at least that way other publishers still have their own intellectual property, and even if they do end up being the Darwin losers of the industry, they at least have something that they maybe could sell. And I don't know, maybe I'm just talking because I run my own business myself, but I'm pretty suspicious about any sort of scheme along the lines of the open gaming license. Because if you lose out, you kind of have nothing to fall back on, right? Nothing that's yours, really.
The way I see the open gaming license, well, if it's like mostly have like the system reference documents like SRD, the way I see it is try to get more players into it. That's what the business side looks. That's what I think they're going for. They're gonna probably publish less campaigns, less material, and more, and allow other publishers to do it, like Paizo's original first 2 adventure paths.
I'm personally quite pleased with this. will be creating and publishing content coming out, and would like to do so without feeling or worrying about or if Wizard's going to sue me, or those kind of things. So personally, I benefit from it, but I also don't benefit from it in the sense that players will now come to me likely or ask me, hey, can I play this half cyborg, half eagle
Well,
book that was published and this thing and that thing? And it just means there's more content which can be good, or there's more content that can be really bad. And that can be problematic. Overall, I'd say it's good for me, and it's wise of them to take that route as a company because of the success of Pathfinder and Paizo's work there, to see that overall. But we have to remember that Wizards is dominantly Magic the Gathering. That is their main income, and D&D is kind of a side thing, more than their main enterprise, and will be. And then Hasbro is the overarching company, and they've got a whole bunch of other stuff interests. But they're not really a gaming company exactly in the same way that Paizo is. Not that they're bad or anything. And considering these tactics, we have to keep in mind that it may be because they don't want to support it quite as much and would rather have the community doing it. But one last thing about their overall publishing strategy, what I saw was Wizards itself is going to be more interested in creating adventures and adventure paths than additional books or rules or those kind of things, which to me is good. I'd rather, well, it's good because I won't actually buy any of those because I like making my own adventures, and so I can just really gain depth with the system instead of breadth, and we can get really familiar with the player's handbook and the Dungeon Master Guide and the Monster Manual instead of 50,000 books that keep coming out and the classes keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger compared to the base, those kind of things. Go ahead, yeah. But Wizards is going to focus more on the adventures, and that means I can make, in my first, I'll be making content designed specifically for new players, which no one does apparently, and new game masters, and then adding in new rules that I feel the system lacks that people have been asking about a lot. And now I feel the pressure off because of this open game license that with a little more freedom. Right. Anyone want to tell me I'm wrong? Correct me.
Well, okay, I have like a slight rebuttal. And say that back in 3.5, 3.x days, a lot when they still had when they previously had the reference document. A lot of times when you go into a DM, they say no third party material. So basically, that already bans a whole lot of material that's coming from other sources.
I'm actually hoping what Andrew says is right, where everyone else will be pushing out all of their additional classes and races and stuff, whereas Wizards themselves will only be doing adventure paths. Because I was afraid with the open gaming license and with Wizards continuing forward that they were going to have a Pathfinder type problem where there's just so many classes and so many races and all that, where some of the original stuff is just pales in comparison to the newer stuff.
Yeah, like why would you even play this when you got the new super barbarian guy?
Yeah, exactly. Why would you want to play human when you got the superhuman? You know.
Kind of like what happened with Book of Nine Swords there.
Yeah. Although at the same time with the open game license, we also had a bunch of really good third edition stuff that came out, like Swords and Sorcery. I thought was a really nice addition from the open game license. So Who knows?
I'm gonna be Gunslinger forever, man. Gunslinger forever. I'm faithful to that class. Love that thing.
I will always stick to playing the rogue. You can play a rogue many ways.
Now,
know,
does the
me
ninja
and
count as
you-
a rogue?
Paladin power.
Paladin's also a favorite of mine.
Oh yeah, definitely. Paladin Barbarian for life.
Half orc or not half orc, paladin for life for sure.
One class which I never get around to playing due to party requirements. I still want to play a anti-paladin still, just for the laws.
Oh God, no.
Anti-paladins are so evil.
Well, you know, hence
Yeah.
the name. You're the opposite of a paladin.
Being evil, it is fun if it's done well.
And it's almost never done well, from my
No.
experience.
No.
Which is why I generally don't like to play evil, because it's never done well, even when you think you're doing it well.
I allow evil, and then the evil characters usually end up in jail.
Yeah.
See, I prefer campaigns where everybody's restricted to some axis of good.
I am getting to where I prefer those as well. Wasn't there a Paizo campaign? I think it was by Pathfinder, where you played goblins. It was called like We Be Goblins or something.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Yes,
We Be
yes.
Goblins
That
and
would
We Be
be fun.
Goblins too.
That would be fun to be evil as We Be Goblins. I would love that.
Evil
Well, I
Goblin
think
team.
I
think
want to
it's-
be an evil goblin.
I think that thing's fun because it
It's
doesn't take
silly,
itself seriously. Yeah, exactly. It's silly. It's supposed to be silly.
That's how you should play evil. Is either silly or if you're gonna go full blown epic,
over the top silly or something, grimdark.
militant, and just evil by the atrocious things that you're doing.
Trying to be epic and then ending up silly.
Exactly.
The way I mainly play evil is my evil character follow a code. So sort of like a military soldier in a way, but I will do A, B, C, D, E, and will not do nothing else because it will make me look like a very simpleton evil person, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I find the only evil I can really do is that kind of evil, like lawful evil. He at the very least has a code.
Yeah, lawful evil I play fine. Neutral evil I cannot play that well. Chaotic evil I will not touch for obvious reasons.
Neutral evil is just evil to be evil.
And I've done some heinous shit.
To be honest, the only difference between chaotic good and chaotic evil are intentions.
This is true.
I mean, if you're taking the bomb over to blow up your enemies, or taking the bomb over to blow up, quote, people, quote, you're either, chaotic good or chaotic evil.
Or chaotic.
You're just chaotic neutral shit.
You're just chaos incarnated.
Now, bouncing off of the evil discussion, what do you guys think of the new adventure path that was just coming out, Curse of Strahd? I think it could be. I think Ravenloft
just
is kinda
finished.
cool.
I just finished Ravenloft.
Is that Paizo?
No,
that's
it's Wizards.
It's
Oh,
Wizards.
D&D.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
based off first edition Ravenloft.
I think
game,
it's
right?
first and second edition. Yeah.
Yeah, I just finished that game.
I was gonna say if it was Paizo, I was like, no, not really. Mostly because one reason. They always start level 1 even if it doesn't make sense.
I mean, I would do. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean like it, as in senses in level 1, like, oh, you guys are great heroes, but everybody's like Joe Smo, learning how to fight.
AKA Rise of the Rune Lords.
Well,
Yes.
first level, you technically kind of are heroes.
Yeah, but
'Cause
then
you're
you have
still stronger than most normal people, and some of you can cast spells, but it's kind of
They
true.
say that, but then look how easily you can fall to a goblin.
And not only that, there's actually villagers that you quote unquote save that are actually higher level than you, and actually could take out the goblins
Good point.
way
Yeah.
better than you.
but they can do it way better than you because they've had more experience in that, but they're not trained like what you are, like soldier, like you're an expert or something. Whereas a fighter, you're a way better, even at lower levels, you're way better in some aspects.
I like to think that a level 1 fighter is simply a farmer who learned how to wield a pitchfork offensively.
No, I gotta say that. I'm sorry. I gotta say a level 1 fighter is more somebody like who just got done with his training. Like he excelled at he's like honor grad for guard.
Right.
Exactly, where an expert is just an expert or a warrior or whatever.
That's a little more easy to see in 5e, where I think the level 1 fighter ability is it
Fighting
Second
style.
Wind? Is it? I think it's
Second
Fighting
Wind.
Wind and Second Wind, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then you get Action Surge immediately at level 2, which is a big boost to what you're able to do.
Not talking about 5e. I see fighters at level 1 would be a standard conscript troop. They are not that good nor bad.
The mechanics of 5th edition lend themselves to that idea, since you don't get your archetype until 3rd level, that those first 2 are rather formative, and you're not really who you're going to be. You're kind of just, you're on the path, you're headed there, but you're not established by any means at the start. And then at level 3, it shows that you've been tested. There's stuff, and now you can say for certain what you are. A few of the classes start off as anything special, and I like that. I think that's my philosophy of the hero's journey. Is you have tested, you have skills not refined yet, and then over the course of the game.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the last few bits of it. Like you cut
Your
out.
mic is cutting in and out.
Oh,
Yeah.
that the first few levels you're unrefined, you're unsophisticated, and then you become so over the course of the game. You're untested, and then the archetypes come into play.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Not always the case in all the classes. Some of them give it to you at level 1. Clerics are notable for that, as are sorcerers. But I guess that sort of makes sense for their particular style of setup.
Because it's like if you're a cleric,
Because they're
you're gonna
clerics
go-
and sorcerers.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at the lore kind of elements of them. One, it's your bloodline, and it's something that has happened to you, and the other one is your devotion to a deity, fully, much more than say a paladin would their specific deity. You're their cleric, and you start off with that because of the commitment that you've made.
And paladins don't really get their power from the deity so much as how they serve the deity.
Mhm.
And in 5e, we can talk about this. No alignment restrictions. Good, bad, other.
I
thing
love
that-
it. Oh, I love that so much.
Another thing that kind of bothers me with the Paladins of 5th edition, they don't really have to serve a deity. They just kind of have to believe really, really hard in an ideal, and they're a paladin.
I'm fine
No,
with that. That is
that was the same
that
in
it's
other
pure
editions,
form.
I believe.
Yeah, it also depends on what setting. Like in Eberron, you could follow ideal. You don't have to follow a deity. Same with classic Great. Is it Greyhawk?
Realms?
No, not Forgotten
Yeah.
Realms. You require a
Yeah,
deity.
you'd have to be, yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on the setting.
At the same time, like a paladin, in my mind, they serve a deity and they get their powers from the deity. They're the deity's embodiment on the planet. Not exactly an avatar, but they embody their ideals and they enact those ideals.
No,
if
that's a
you're-
cleric. That is a cleric 100%.
I think it had something just due to the devotion. Like if you're in a setting with no gods at all, you can still be a cleric because you're just so devoted to some idea or
At the
philosophy.
same time, there's no gods and there's. I guess you can rule it, but then there's technically no divine magic.
Well, no divine magic, but magic comes from the weave in different forms,
I suppose,
depending
yes.
on. Yeah.
I'm actually a little wondering about that, and maybe it's just because I don't play D&D all that much overall. I mostly play other systems, but is like from a regular person's perspective, what makes divine magic divine? Because I know in a previous video, Andrew, you had said that the existence of gods in D&D type settings are just obvious, like it's apparent to everybody. But what's stopping somebody from going, I've never had a divine revelation, and as far as I know, you're just doing a slightly different flavor of magic, and there are already all these other magic flavors over here that, how do I know that this isn't all just the same stuff?
That is not campaign. That is setting dependent.
Well,
That depends on how the world you're playing in is constructed.
like Faerun, they've had gods that bumped onto the Earth or planet, so they know like their gods are real. But in other things, they're not sure, and that could be a good argument for an atheist character. Or, yeah.
And in Pathfinder, there's actually like a whole city, civilization where they're really arcane users, but they're trying to pretend like they're worshiping a god. So they're bluffing their magic somehow. And
Well,
yeah.
To me, no matter what system I use, when I think of 13 holy classes, mainly clerics, war priests, paladins, clerics, I think of mainly the alignment for them. Monks and paladins, I already think of lawful because I grew up with that.
As far as the deities, in addition to it being campaign setting kind of specific, you can also consider, and this means that you're role playing this out, how your magic gets cast. And if you're describing it as you're utilizing this symbol, which you should be casting through your holy symbol, you're speaking rituals or language related to, by the light of Seren Ray, I heal you, those kind of things, you're invoking your deity. That should be indication of the difference of the magic is how it's performed. You can also look at it in the arcane doesn't have access to healing specifically or resurrections and those kind of things. So if you find someone doing some healing, again, system dependent, setting dependent, that's another manifestation of, which also leads to the idea of the divine magic being more of a good thing as an essence than more neutral, which you might find in arcane, because healing is replenishment, it's growth, it's goodness, it's life. That would be how I would show the difference and show why what divine is versus just a different kind of arcane.
How would you consider resurrection?
Well,
It depends on the setting too and the campaign themes, but that would usually the deities are tied into the other planes of existence and the afterlife, and so that's why resurrection's connected to them, because in most fantasy things, you die, you go to be judged, or you go to your alignment plane or a variety of afterlife themed things. And so resurrection is, I have a connection to this deity, and the deity has power over the afterlife or over the person who runs the afterlife and gives me the ability to bring their soul back to their body, granting me that power because they're in that arena. That's kind of how I see that working.
No, the question is reincarnation.
yeah,
Druids.
matter the same essence. You
It's
just
like,
go into a new body.
They don't die; they just respawn.
Yeah.
It's more like I can't put him into the same body, but I can put him into this baby.
well, it's not so much as the baby, it's just a new adult body most of the time.
Well, reincarnation, you're reborn, I think is the ruling for that.
Oh, well, sorry. I know it from 3.5 and, 3.0 and 3.5 and Pathfinder. I don't know how it is in 4th edition and in 5.
I'm pretty sure in 5th you have to roll to see the result, and it can
Yeah.
put you into an adult body. It creates one out of thin air or something. I can't remember. It's been a while since I read it.
It works differently than our real world understanding of reincarnation. This is just I mush you up and put you a bunch of herbs on you and cover you, and then life comes back to you. But since it's not exactly through a deity, it's much more through the life energies and that
Nature.
process. You may come back as a centaur or a goblin or different gender, those kind of things.
Yeah, I think with reincarnation, there's actually a table that you roll,
Yeah, there
and
is.
it depends your race and your gender and your height and all that.
And there's also one section for, well, it used to be, at least, where DM choice.
I prefer to roll.
Yeah. At a what was it? Racist dwarf turned into an elf.
Yep.
And he was racist to elves specifically, so he went and killed himself and said, "Start over."
And he was like, I actually like being tall.
The best thing about that, well, at least in 3.x, is that you can always just get a wish spell. And then that, depending on the DM, that could also have some interesting caveat. Like some people got into their head from long ago where any wish you make, you have to attempt to screw over the paper. You basically have to be a rules lawyer, like a lawyer, to draft up a wish. And I always hated that.
In 5.E, it basically boils down to if you're a jerk and to the people at the table, which you should never do, and you cast the wish spell, your life is over. That's basically how it translates into 5.E. If you're a good player and you cast wish, good things will happen, and if you're a bad player, bad things will happen.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because it literally says whatever you try to wish for, the DM can choose how to interpret it.
Suck up to the GM.
Don't suck up, just be a good person.
Yeah, don't suck up. I was just kidding.
And if you happen to bring cookies to every session, that may help too.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to mail cookies to Arizona, huh?
Fly them in.
I'm in Colorado now, but
sorry.
Don't send them to Arizona. Jeff will get them. No, he's gone. Okay. But that's something I do miss. The very first season of Monday Night Gaming a couple years ago, we alternated the episodes. I would release it with the live game and then whatever they were cooking, because we had 2 professional chefs who would come to the gaming group and we would showcase recipes. And that to me has been very sad. That was part of, and I did that in Arizona too with our gaming group there. That's part of the experience too. To come together, to make dinner for them, to host, very important.
Also, another thing I like to do with my gaming group is, if we are going to be drinking, we always take turns buying whatever beverage we like to drink.
And make sure you have a designated driver.
Yes.
Well, the way I explain to and I'm Forgotten Realms, that's pretty much my wheelhouse for any sort of setting knowledge. But I explained how magic works in the way of it's all the same, but they just choose to count it as or represent it differently just because it comes from a deity rather than their intelligence. Because technically in Forgotten Realms, the weave is just like a flowing river, and the gods dish out water, whereas some find it through knowledge.
That's actually how magic works in my personal world setting as well. The magic is like a constant weave that's there, and you can either pull the threads or you can
have it supplied to you. Yeah. Which is why I allow ideology and philosophy clerics, because they're able to do that, but they want to do it for greater good or evil, depending on what kind of cleric.
In the Star Wars universe, I think it best describe the Jedi get the source from the Force, and the Force is it is water. Determine how the water is, if it's pure or not. It will affect your ability to actually use it. But I think that was a reference to Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, I think.
Yeah, that was the Old Republic too. That was my
Nobody
favorite
wants to
game.
remember metachlorians. Metachlorians just don't make any sense.
What? You mean little tiny germs in our bodies that make us able to use the Force that makes sense?
I guess it makes it's so sad.
I think the Mandalorians were a cultural reference to the Vikings or some warrior culture, I think.
Metachlorians?
Yeah, Mandalorians.
I think he's talking about the Mandalorian race.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, there's Mandalorian the race, and then
Metachlorians.
Wait.
Mandalorians. Yeah.
Wait,
I'm
Mandalorians, it's a culture. So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot of Viking
thinking.
cultures had their exact same philosophy.
Perhaps they should have named it a bit differently than two things that are almost exactly the same.
Mesopotamians.
I got a question to pose about specifically to anybody can chime in on it, but that setting where the magic flows like a river kind of a thing. How would you argue that your wizard can't cast cure spells or can't choose any spells from any list or anybody? Why isn't there like a universal list in that situation?
I have an answer for that, but I'll let you go first.
Alright. I mean, that was the just best way I described it. Like, technically in that setting, Mistra, or Mistral, or Midnight, whatever you want to call her, because she has like 3 names, was the god of the weave, and she'd protect it and go over it. She would dish it out certain ways. She would actually allow, like, before someone tried to steal the weave, she would allow people to have over 10th level or 9th level spells. But what she does was she would section it off into different streams, I guess would be an example, and then allow people to get from those streams. I'm just trying to make it into the river metaphor. It's not an actual river. It's just you can go now.
How I've seen it described is that healing has a lot more variables involved with it than, say, chucking a fireball. When you chuck a fireball, you just need to pull really, really hard on one strand and make all the other strands kind of heat up by doing so. You're just doing one thing really, really with a lot of force. But when you're healing something, you have to convince all the specific cells to knit together and not to become cancerous, etc., etc., etc. So farther on down, there's just a much higher level of manipulation going on there, so you have to channel a god's sort of intellect through you to be able to do it. You just got to focus the god's attention, and the god will come in and handle it for you.
What if your wizard has godlike levels of intelligence?
He does not. That's how you answer that question. You say, no, you do not have god levels of intelligence.
Bad wizard.
No, it wasn't exactly that. What it was there was a time where all magic was like allowed, but then it was blocked off specifically because of what someone did to try to destroy the world.
Well, no, what you do is you become a 19th level wizard and 1 level cleric. That's how you fix the situation.
Well, then you're like just a sort of humble wizard who's like, well, I can't do this.
Oh, I better just do this now.
But yeah, if you look at the wizard spells, a lot of them are brute forcing things. The exception are the transmogrification spells, like turning one thing into another thing, and I guess polymorph. I'm not sure where polymorph fits into all this.
Well, no, polymorph can be used offensively too. You chuck a mouse inside of someone's, throat and polymorph.
Oh, I guess
turn it.
Or
Turn it into a goat.
or turn a raging orc into a mouse.
Yeah, I guess with polymorph, how it would make sense is you just have an example of what you turn them into, and you just focus on their essence and compress it down into a similar shape, like carbon
like
copy.
A mental focus of I'm thinking of this, and then it happens.
Hey, mine's swallowing this for me? Oh, thank you. It's a pumpkin now.
Polymorph, it is the one spell people can actually abuse quite easily. Saying, "Oh,
There are rules in place to keep that from happening if you actually read the polymorph spells in 5e anyway.
Let's just glaze over that.
my Friday group, the GM, if any of us behave, we have a made-up god called the Go God. And if we misbehave, the Go God will transform our character into goats as a punishment."
It's not a punishment. That's a privilege.
The funny thing is that all of us do not like goats, so it's a punishment.
What if you're a rogue goat or a monk goat? Are you a monk that can like run up walls?
Oh my god, a monk goat! Flurry of blows with their hooves.
A goat with boots of spider step.
Simulating goats. Kind of like a goat simulator.
It would be funny for a one shot for everyone to play as an animal.
That'd be interesting.
Be a raccoon.
Actually.
I would jazz hands, man.
I would want to be a rabbit.
I would definitely play in a one shot like that, except something actually useful, like a pack of wolves.
Oh, that would be fun, actually. Yeah.
Pack of wolves with a raccoon rogue. Just sneaking down. I got you, bros.
Bear tank.
Don't eat me.
You have a bear who took your levels of barbarian.
The Dova bear.
Oh my god.
This is a funny player story I heard. Once a player played as a bear, and he put bluff and disguise every single point he had, and he actually convinced everyone that he was a knight for being a bear. And then at the end of the campaign, one of the knights say, "Oh, this Sir Bearstein wasn't a knight. He's just a bear," and the bear was taken away. And
well,
everyone
guys. All we're describing is a party of druids.
That is actually true.
He's a dragon slaying knight. Nope, he's actually a druid in disguise.
Hey, I've actually been in a campaign in 3.5 where actually it was started above level 8. So I basically came in as like a wolf or something. Yeah, so it's basically and by then when you're level 8, you could basically spend all day shapeshift. So it's kind of like what you guys described.
Yeah, pretty much.
If I were running a druid in a certain campaign and I liked the player, I would let them be an animal druid who can shapeshift into a race, like a human race or whatever. And because mechanically it wouldn't make a lot of difference, just a little.
You
well,
just
at the same time,
shape.
They have a race for that now.
Well, I wouldn't. No, I just want to do it through druid though.
Oh, okay.
Just like you have humanoid shape rather than animal shape.
Yeah. Well, you can turn into other animals too, but one of your animal shapes just happens to be a human.
Oh, okay. It just happens.
But wait, if you're a human druid, then...
What if you're a dwarf druid and you're racist against humans and you have to turn to human?
Sad for you.
Well, you unlock wild shape human. And
this is why it's not in the core rulebook.
Civilized shape human rather than wild shape.
Well, yeah, that's it right there. Like, the power's called wild shape, not some other guy shape, you know?
Well, you just get
I don't know.
you just give them a feat, civilized shape.
What if you are a bear though? Every shape that you take is technically a wild shape at that point, because you are a bear. I will shape my wildness.
They have a wild shape, so they transform into a person.
Exactly. I don't think a bear is a...
Bears are eligible for druidhood. Don't be racist against bears.
I don't know, so... Actually, a Warforged druid. Technically, anything huge wild shape, it's basically nature, right? So you can worship it to human.
Warforged druid, they kind of like Autobot transform into an animal.
Yes,
they're Transformer, pretty much.
Actually, in a one shot, I actually did that. Uh, did like I actually said something maximize because of Beast Wars at the time.
I was watching a Nerdarchy video and they said something about that and they said every time he did like summon animals, like his chest opened up and little tiny automatons came out. I thought that was the best thing.
The Warforged. I could definitely see a one shot for them being the Autobots versus the Decepticons.
Oh my god.
Or being the Decepticons versus the Autobots.
Um,
Decepticons for the new bargain board.
Well, gentlemen, I'll take that moment and the rabbit trail we've ended up on. As a good opportunity to kind of close this down, at least for me, to move on with my busy evening schedule as it is. But I want to thank you all so much for your support and for coming out tonight and chatting and sharing some good laughs and some good stories and thoughts and advice. We will have another one of these chats coming soon, and I'm in a game with at least half of you, so that opportunity is there too. Anything anybody wants to say or share before, like a couple more minutes of whatnots, and then we'll close this down.
Does anyone know where I can get a hand on the new open game license? I use that for my work, so I have the old one, so I don't have the new one.
You pray?
I have a link for that. I will share that with you.
Oh, there you
All
go.
right, thank you.
I was about to say, Google's always your friend, but hey.
I didn't even know there was a new one.
Yeah, I was just watching a video on it, again by Nerdarchy, who were discussing it.
I don't feel exactly qualified as far as like legalese and those kind of things about deciphering it, but I can give you the link to it, and the general impression that I've gotten is kind of what people we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Hire a lawyer.
We remember, if you ever have to make a deal with the devil, always have a lawyer next to you.
Or a bard.
A bard or even a lawyer. Both of them know the law.
I'm really excited to see what
I don't know. The Bard, they may be a little chaotic.
Links in the chat there.
Awesome.
Oh, sorry about that.
So I have a question, guys. Like, how do you feel about like a DM saying that you guys could like roll up new characters? You get like a session or two to like remake them after you made them or something like that.
I generally give one session after they played the character to
assess.
Okay.
That's something I definitely leave windows for. You just don't really know your character, and you don't know what you really want them to be, to do and come off with until you play them in the session. So I find I'm often, as a DM, allowing between the first and second session, you can change anything about your character. Between the second and third session, you can change your feats and skills, but your class and race have to stay the same. And then by the third session, you're fixed. I even during the first session, I do this sometimes. I will be changing around the spells that my character knows, not to gain an advantage in the situation, but just, wow, it really makes a lot of sense that he has this and not this, and then I change them there. Because as you're role playing, then the character comes. I don't know that I would ever restrict that, but maybe there's some people who do.
I would treat it on a case-by-case basis myself, because like I've had pretty bad experiences letting people do that in the past, and I guess I got burned, so I'm not liable to let people do that in the future. But then again, like I said, I don't play much D&D. I play a lot of XP buy systems, so it's a lot easier in that sort of situation to sort of correct your character on the fly as you go.
Champions.
Champions? I've never played Champions.
Champions hurts me. It hurts me deep inside my soul.
Can someone tell me about? I've heard something about this. Two things, just briefly, because I do need to go work on some stuff. But Fatal and Made RPG. Why am I hearing about them?
Andrew, let me tell you what Made RPG is. You pretty much play as a maid, and you actually clean up a made-up house. It is very boring, but the idea is entertaining. So, let's say a group of male players, you have to play as female maids. There's humor in there if you see it.
I've had fun playing Made RPG before, but when I did it, the situation was that we were playing monsters in a dungeon serving an evil overlord, and we really sort of changed what am I thinking of?
Tone?
Basically changed all the look and the feel of all the elements without changing the rules. Fatal is a car crash.
I heard it was the best RPG ever.
I never heard of that, but I assume Made RPG would be okay-ish if you're like cleaning up for a venture party after they go to like each dungeon. Just clean up their mess they made.
I've heard good things about Made as a short game that you can just throw together and play with your friends without thinking about it.
That's
what I've heard about it, Made.
That's it.
I don't know anything about Fatal, though.
I've never heard any of these before.
Here, I'm going to throw up a link for you.
I will say that concept doesn't interest me exactly, but there are some concepts that I was surprised how much I enjoyed. And one game is called Reciteer, and in that game you play an item shop. You run an item shop, and then adventurers come in and buy your stuff. And part of the game is you go into dungeons, you hire an adventurer to go into dungeons and find basically stuff for you to sell. And I really enjoyed that game, surprisingly. So the concept of being tangential to the actual adventuring doesn't sound so bad. But I was just thank you for filling me in on some of those things, because oftentimes people make references, they assume everyone knows what they know. Most of the time they don't. So good to give a link.
The game Reciteer sounds like an interesting campaign idea as well.
I don't think so.
I'd do it.
I mean, if you were working for somebody who owned an item shop, you could really easily go from dungeon to dungeon that way. Or if you owned an item shop and you were out getting the items yourself, maybe. Kind of Indiana Jones-esque in the very classical sense.
That is part of the video game. You do go, or you hire people to go into dungeons for you, and then you control them.
Oh, it's kind of like what is that game? Dungeon Guild or Dungeon?
Yeah, I think it's.
It has that really kooky art style, and it's kind of sarcastic.
If you do a campaign like this, it really should be a one-on-one, really.
The Guild of Dungeoneering, I think, is what it's called.
I would say that more often than not, interesting campaign concepts like this or game concepts, they usually end up better when, and I will say that there are some things that, if done as a video game, are way better than done as tabletop. I know it's more restrictive, but accounting for a lot of math, accounting for inventory and those kind of things, it seems to me like Shadowrun as a system, the Pathfinder, even the level of complexity for some elements seems to be better executed in that front. And so I might see item shop as a video game, but I usually run into trouble trying to take those ideas and cram them into D&D or something like that. Just it's not made for that. It's made for you to be heroes going and killing goblins and those kind of things. Shoehorning the experience in, I find to be tricky and not always paying off.
Mhm.
Anyone with experience in that?
I find with Shadowrun, the complexity really pays off because even though it's like there's books and books, I mean, 4th edition Shadowrun had like 6 core books essentially, and you had to pick up the main one and then another one for your class essentially. But because of that complexity, it really pays off. Like, you get to play exactly the counterculture weirdo that you want to be. You know, you want to have a shotgun that's fingerprint ID'd and plays bad to the bone whenever you pump it. Like, you can do that. You want to play a Zoroastrian mystic who connects to the internet with his brain. Like, it really pays off because you get to do a customized character down to your whatever precise idea you have in your head, whereas Pathfinder, I feel like you're more... I don't feel that the complexity pays off in terms of getting to play what you want because you still have to basically compromise with the class-race system.
Another big thing about the difference between Pathfinder and Shadowrun is a lot of the complexity of Shadowrun is solely in the charging system. Like, if you make a Street Sam, once you have a Street Sam made and all his cyber and stuff in, basically all you have to do is keep track of ammo and know the basic rules for how combat works. Which I guess Pathfinder's the same now I think about it.
I just know I've really enjoyed the Pathfinder video game, the computer game, the one that came out recently-ish. And I haven't even started, well, I've looked at it, the Shadowrun books behind me for whatever the newest edition is.
5th. I'm actually going to try and get those because I've heard good things.
I play the game and then I look at the system and it's just like, so much of this was just managed by a simple to make character generator or executed in the background, and all I could focus on was the really cool setting and the idea of living and playing in that world, which is just super fantastic and interesting. Magic erupts into modern day, slightly futuristic stuff. Super cool, very interesting. But the mechanics that go along with it just kind of turn me off. Which is unfortunate. Maybe I'll get over it.
It would be cool maybe if you could find a sort of... What's that system called? It's kind of like Roll20, but you have to pay for...
Fantasy Grounds.
Fantasy Grounds. If there was like a Fantasy Grounds Shadowrun, that might sort of solve that problem for you. Because those tend to have their own sort of character generation built-in things.
Yeah, I'd be open to that. Yeah. But for now, I think I have a friend who loves learning new systems and playing new systems and will get a new book all the time. I think I prefer gaining some depth in one system, really understanding it, learning it, and I think I'll stick with 5e for now for that. But I'm definitely open. More people ask me about these, when will you cover this, that, the other thing? I'd rather have some. You can come in and be the GM for the game.
I really want to try and sell you on Exalted, Andrew, because I think you'd have a blast with it. It's complex in the mechanics, but because it has to do with the way that you add your powers together on top of one another, it's a lot more sort of ramped up in terms of the complexity, where you start with less, but when you build your character as you go forward, things get sort of geometrically more complex, and it really gives you the feeling of like how powerful this godlike character is.
What game is this?
Exalted.
Oh, I've heard okay things about Exalted. That's White Wolf, yeah.
I've played a session of it too. It's like White Wolf's D6,
Yeah.
D10 fantasy kind of venture. Yeah, I really enjoyed, and this is it was kind of the inspiration for me doing Describe Your Combat, because in Exalted, the more vividly and interestingly you described how you were attacking your enemies. You got up to like a +3 bonus or 3 extra die or something like that, which I really liked. Though it does, if you do that plus have lots and lots of hit points for the monsters, this is the problem I run into in Pathfinder and D&D sometimes, is we're describing this really vivid, cool, all our abilities and all that stuff, but the fight ends up being like 2 hours long because it's just, all right, each turn takes really long because we're describing it, and I think maybe I'll just cut down on the hit points if we're going to be really cinematic about it. It just ended up taking a long time.
I find that something of an antidote for that is to roll first and then describe what you're doing. Because that way, if like so many rolls are going to miss or so many damage rolls are just going to be a 1 or 2, just cut out that end of the description, so that way when you do describe a roll, you're describing an action that's actually both mechanically significant as well as really interesting.
You're cutting out a lot of the anticipation and build to the moment when you do that, though. You are sacrificing things to get the expediency, sadly. Because I've used that same system before a few times, and I eventually just reverted back because it felt so just unnatural. Especially if you have maybe one person who doesn't like how the fight ended up, and he just drags his feet because he doesn't like what happens.
This is one of the homebrewed rules for my party, but this is probably done on the channel as well. But when it comes to making combat go faster, it's important to know what you are going to be doing when it gets to your turn, because a turn can take up to 2 minutes plus, and you add up over a session. Combat can take a very long time.
Well, I think that's just kind of common gaming courtesy.
Yeah. I think what a lot of people do, though, like, you gotta just to like hurry it up, I guess. Yeah.
On my sheets, I usually go through and total all my usual bonuses, and then also the different combinations of bonuses that I can possibly have, and I'll have like 4 numbers written down of what my different pluses are to attacks and damage and stuff, so that I don't have to do that mid-combat, and that really, really helps.
Using a online character sheet like Mistweaver definitely helps with that.
Tip for game masters or dungeon masters that I found really worked for me is that if you do have somebody who's being slow like that, especially newer players, I had a lot of success using recipe cards that basically you write in pencil, here's your action, here's all your generic modifiers, remember to ask if there's anything else, this is what you roll, go. And it has not only kept new players from bogging down combat and feeling bad because they're being slower than anyone else, it also helps them learn the system, if not necessarily where to find everything in the books.
That's really important to not just to expedite it for the game's sake and the time's sake, but to have it so the players don't feel pressured and overwhelmed. Like, of course they don't know what they're doing. That's totally fine. That's what all of us did at the beginning, and thankfully we had patient people, or we figured it out or something to be able to continue to do it. But encouraging that, I facilitate the initiative, the on-deck kind of theory. You're up and then blank is after you, so start paying attention and clicking in. I find some other things that slow it down are either the players asking questions when we're playing Theater of the Mind as to where am I, on the map and those kind of things in reference, so I have to answer those. But then at the same time, when playing on a grid, they end up being like really meticulous about, all right, how far am I, and all, and then the measuring takes a bunch of time. So there's really no winning that way, it seems. But having those flip cards for their abilities or for initiative, that helps me go along, and rolling initiative ahead of time to be able to expedite it and keep it going. That's something I'll need to be doing that a little more in future games here. But I've gone a little bit over. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. I gotta hop off now. I see my wife. I have to go put baby to bed. Second round. I've missed my little window.
Live long and prosper.
Take it easy, man.
We remember, keep her happy.
It's a big priority. It's tough. The weird schedule like I have, but at least I'm home, and that's huge. So I can go help when and as needed most of the time. Speaking of, I'll do that now. Happy gaming, everybody. Great to chat with you, and looking forward to the next time.